الرحمن الرحيم والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم ترى كيف فعل ربك بعدل إرم ذات العمد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربك رمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا ما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, sir. Just real quick, we do have snacks and refreshments outside, so please help yourself. Just a quick intro on our guest here today. Mahdiya USA is a youth initiative devoted to studying and spreading teachings of Ahlul Bayt in the service of the Master of our era, Imam Zaman. It seeks advice and guidance from respected resident scholar Masjid al-Rasul al-Akram of Houston. With that, I would like to invite Brother Ali Hussain and Brother Mehdi Jafi to start the workshop. Please recite aloud.
Inshallah, we'll start it off with a dua for Sahib al-Amr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم أصلح عبدك وخليفتك بما أصلحت به أنبياءك ورسلك وحفه بملائكتك وأيده بروح القدس من عندك واسلكه من بين يديه ومن خلفه رصدا يحفظونه من كل سوء وعبدله من مال خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشركوا بك شيئا ولا تجعل لأحد من خلقك على وليك سلطانا وأذنه في جحاد عدوك وعدوه واجعلني من أنصاره إنك على كل شيء قدير. الله
صل على بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله عليك يا ولي الأسر أدركنا. First off, just want to say thank you guys for coming out. Sorry that we were late. I got stuck in a little bit of traffic. But to get started today, I want to first start with the question that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually poses himself in the Quran to us, right? Where he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Af'ala yunzuruna ila ibli kayfa khuliqat. Have you not seen how we have created the camel? Right? Allah asks us this question about a camel, and we may be thinking when we're hearing this verse or listening to this verse, why is he asking us about a camel? What's so special about this camel, right? Is it just to stare at a camel all day and notice that it has two humps? In actuality, it is to remind us that Allah has created a creation that is perfect and made in perfection, right? If we look at the camel, examine it scientifically, we can see that the camel has three eyelids, right? One of those eyelids is translucent and it helps it still get through the desert sandstorms, right? So that it can still go through the harsh environment that it has to endure. Another one protects it from the sun, right? So all of these are a reminder that Allah has given us to look at the fact that there is a greater creator, a sign that there is someone or a creator that has created something perfect, right? And that's the topic for today, is to really understand the signs that Allah has given us, specifically the signs in regards to Imam Zaman and his reappearance. So we talked about the camel. It's really a reminder through the creation of Allah. And of course, Allah does this in more than one way, right? It's not only physical beings or creatures. SubhanAllah, I mean, we were driving here on the way and we were able to see mountains and really tall trees, huge rocks, formations. We're from Houston. Our land is flat. So we were able to see, mountains which we don't get to see all the time, and you can only think like what a magnanimous creation that Allah has made, right? And it makes you think back that there is a greater creator. In the same way, Allah has done this in a number of two other ways, which is one, the prophecies of the divine emissaries, right? The prophets, the Aima, have given us different signs telling of the other prophets, of the other Imams to come, as a sign for the people to be ready. And the other way is the miracles that we see the different prophets and Imams have created. So to start off, we'll give a little brief agenda. Number one, we want to look at the concept of signs. What is a sign? Where does the Quran talk about it? And how are they used in other Islamic aspects?
The second part we want to discuss are, this day and age we see a lot of bloodshed, a lot of things that we see in the books of Ghaiba that will happen prior to the coming of Imam Zaman. And everyone's talking about these signs, right? So which signs are the ones that we should pay attention to that will really, wake us up to get ready for the Imam?
And if there are so many signs specifically about Imam Zaman that we're seeing in our world today, then the question is, why is the Imam still not here? Right? What are the barriers that we're seeing to the reappearance of the Zuhur of Imam Zaman? And to look closer at that, what are the causes of this delay? And are they something that are societal or on a personal level?
And then last but not least, we want to walk away today with some actionable steps that we can, add into our lives in order to prepare ourselves for that time when that Zuhur happens, right?
So just to recap, we're going to go over what's a sign, which ones are relevant, the barriers to the reappearance of the Imam Zuhur, and then the actionable steps that we can take.
So when we look at the Holy Quran, right, there's a verse here from Surah Fussilat, verse number 53, which talks about ayat specifically. When Allah uses the word signs in the Holy Quran, it comes up in the word of ayat. Right? So he says over here, so sanurihim ayatina fi afaqi wa fi anfusihim, right? And we will show them signs in the exterior, right, within the universe, like Mahdi was referring to the camel, right? And we'll show them signs within themselves, right? For instance, sometimes we go through a hardship, and then we pray super hard to Allah with true sincerity, and Allah finds a way out for us, right? Just like that. That's also a sign. And until what? It says over here, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنُوا لَهُمُ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. That until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth, right? So in the time before the coming of Imam Zaman, these signs will come, right? The Imams have talked about Imam Zaman, right? And all these signs are there to awaken us, to get us ready for that time when he does come.
So looking at signs before even getting to Imam Zaman, we can see that signs are apparent even in the times of the different prophets, right? Starting with Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa himself displayed miracles to show the people that he was the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Numerous miracles. One that we've shown here is the splitting of the sea, which we all know. And in addition, Prophet Musa even told the people, his qawm, that there will be another prophet after me, right? And that's Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Prophet Isa himself also displayed different miracles, different signs to point that he was a Nabi of Allah. One that he's known for is reviving the dead, curing the sick, right? And of course, he also told the people that soon someone will come after me who will be the last prophet, the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam, Prophet Muhammad. And the greatest sign of Prophet Muhammad is, of course, the greatest miracle that he brought was the Holy Quran, right? And that was the miracle that he gave to the people. So we looked at signs in two aspects, the Holy Quran talking about the verse from the camel and Surah Fussilat, and then the fact that Allah has used the divine emissaries, the prophecies that the prophets have brought and their miracles to also point to the fact that signs are apparent and used by Allah, right, to remind the people of His creation.
So there was an instance here with Imam Hassan alayhi salam when he was a little kid, and he goes to his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he asks him about the coming of Imam Zaman. He asks him about the Mahdi. The way Rasulullah responds is very unique, right? And this is the way that all the Imams have taught to us. As in, whenever a question is asked to the Imams, they respond back with a verse and an explanation of that verse in the Holy Quran. And when asked about the Imam Zaman, Rasulullah quotes a verse from Surah A'raf, where he says, قَالَ إِنَّمَا مِثْلُهُ كَمِثْلَ السَّاعَةِ. As in, the coming of Imam Zaman is like the Day of Judgment, something which is hatmi, which is going to happen, right? And continues over here, ثَقُلَتْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَا تَعْتِيكُمْ إِلَّا بَغْتَةً. As in, it's very heavy in the heavens and in the earth, right? And it's not going to come except suddenly. So this is one instance of Rasulullah talking about Imam Zaman. Every single Imam has come, and there's a multitude of hadiths that have talked about Imam Zaman, what to do during the time of Ghaibah, right? What is going to be afflicting the Shias in the time of Ghaibah. All these have been written out for us. So
also following the same pattern as the other prophets, how Prophet Musa told the coming of Prophet Isa told the coming of Prophet Muhammad. Now Prophet Muhammad is telling us the coming of Imam Zaman, right? Following the same pattern. And if we look a little bit about the signs now associated specifically with Imam Zaman, we want to examine what are some of the major and minor signs in regards to the coming of his zuhur. What will happen before that we've seen in the hadiths and the narrations in regards to what will take place within the world, right? And we wanted to examine this kind of in a game format. I think many people are familiar with the signs. I've heard about them before, talked about them a little bit in different dialogues. We're going to play a slight game where we'll show some of the signs and leave it up to you guys to identify, is it a major sign or a minor sign, right?
before we start, does anyone know of any signs that prior to the coming of Imam Zaman that we would see?
I think eclipse twice in Ramazan, but not Ramazan.
Yes, that's one of the signs.
I thought that was supposed to happen this year.
Yeah, no.
There's also death of Nafs in Canoga.
Yes, that's one of the signs. Any other ones? Anyone can recall?
Someone from the lineage of Abu Sufyan.
Ah, yes, taking
The rise
over.
of Sufyani.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
taking over the Levant region. Yeah. Okay, let's run through this. I think you guys have a good idea, so you guys will do pretty good in this game. All right, jump to the first one. The first one's the rise of the Yamani. Yamani will be the truest supporter of Imam Zaman.
So a major sign is a sign that the Aima have said will happen for sure. And a minor sign is one that is conditional. It may or may not happen. So do you guys think this would be a major sign or a minor sign? Major.
The call of Jibreel alayhi salam. In the Shahr Ramadan, there will be a call from Jibreel alayhi salam. And then there will be a second call in the nighttime saying that the individual who is rising from Levant is on Haqq. That individual's name, he's from the lineage of Sufyani, that individual will be on Haqq. So this will confuse a lot of people. What do you guys think? This is a major sign or a minor sign? Major. Red Death, something we see very common in this day and age, right? Bloodshed all around the world. Major or minor? Minor. Severe drought. Major or minor? Minor? Okay. Yeah, minor. I think we're on track. White plague. So sometimes when there's a big disease that will be spread out. Sometimes people refer this to as COVID, and they have various speculations of this. Right? White death. You guys think this is major or minor? Minor. Sant. Splitting of the earth. Khasbul Bayda. This will be an army that's against Imam Zaman. Major sign. Very nice. And the earth will just open and it'll swallow this whole. The advent of the Sufyani, major, right? So, a great fire will rise from the east. So sometimes people depict this in a lot of different manners. Oh, it could be, the bombs being dropped, this, that. What do you guys think? Is this major or minor? Minor. Okay. The death of Nafs Zakiya, major. That's it.
And do you guys know what Nafs Zakiya?
Like the very elite of the pious soul.
Yeah, so
Some people say it was the death of Imam Khamenei, but then it didn't happen within the
yeah, Nafs Zakiya is referred to as the pure soul, and actually will be one person that is of young age, a young man, who will be killed at Khane Kaaba on display. His killing. So Imam Sadiq has given us these 5 major signs, right? He's told us which are these Hatmi signs, and he says that they will come and manifest before the reappearance of Imam Zaman. And we'll see the word Qaim used throughout the presentation, but just for respect of the Imam, we'll try to not use the word because of the respect associated with this, and refer to as Imam Zaman. So he says that one is, of course, the advent of the Yamani and Sufyani, the call from the sky of Jibreel that we mentioned, the sinking of the Baida land, and the killing of the pure soul, Nafs Zakiya. Right? So we have this this app called Slido. You can actually, I'm not sure why it's not working. But essentially, you guys can go on here and write your answers. But I think because we're a smaller crowd, it gives us opportunity to actually have a bit more of a discussion. And this was really meant for larger crowds. So one of the questions we have before we go deeper into the topic is, how much importance do the signs have towards the Zuhur? Right? We went over some of the major, minor signs, and we want to hear your thoughts. How important are these? How much weight do we give these?
Very important.
Very important. Yeah. As in, like, the Imam's coming, it's coming on the signs. In a way short before. Yep.
I used to feel that they were very important as well, and that's what I had studied. But then I took a course with Nabir al-Abidi, and what some of the Maulanas there were saying that the absolute control is still with Allah, who can make his zuhur happen without any of this. So that concept of, I think it's called qadr. So then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in Allah's decree.
Hopefully you guys can shed some light on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just any other answers actually before I go deeper on that?
Very good question. When people say Allah, Allah, does it make any difference? Because it's in Allah's hand, and all these things gonna happen before Imam will appear, right? So no matter how much we say Allah, does it have any significance, or we're just doing it to show that we're connected with Him? But in my mind, I said, well, why should I say Allah? I said, destroy the oppressors. That is my mission.
That's exactly something that'll be discussed in like the third portion of the presentation.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. That's a good point. That's a good point. Are we just saying Allah Jal, and it's just like, what are we doing? We're not doing anything that backs it up with action, or is it something that we have to do? Yeah.
I agree. Like, it isn't all in the hands of Allah, but I think, like, of course we have these major and minor signs felt, right? Major, like the ones that will for sure happen, and then minor. But regardless, as I said before, like kind of like yesterday, like I think without these signs, I think it serves as a reminder for us to, like, are we ready for his, for the Zuhur? So like, I think it all kind of like, I think it's important regardless if it's major or minor, because it serves an importance to us to like be like an active like person to have intizar.
And these are all reminders, right? In the verse said these are reminders to wake people up into what is the truth, what is to come.
Yeah, and great answers, and sister, just like you mentioned as well, and Yasser over here. Yeah, it's good to know them, right? It's good to know what the Imams have said about the signs. Of course, at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does have all control, and if He chooses not to use any of these, He can, right?
One more question.
Yeah.
I heard that there will be only 40 Mu'minins, 38 in Iran and 2 in other parts of the world. Is that something you are going to talk about?
40 mu'mineen in regards to being the companions
In the whole world.
in the whole world.
Before Imam gave
40. I haven't heard of anything of that nature.
I heard it long time ago.
Yeah.
And most of the 40, 38 is from Imam.
So there's in the books of Kamal al-Din of Imam al-Ni'mah, there's actually a hadith which goes over all the 313 from the regions which they'll be from. Right, and their names are listed too. So maybe you're thinking of 40 part of those 313 that came from the Iran region, but we can
Maybe 40 are sincere and truly believe in Imam, and person like me, oh yeah, Imam will come and I will go my way, and why does he have to come? I have heard even the Shia alims will say to Imam, why do you have to come? We are handling the situation.
Yeah, that's another hadith. Yeah, that has come up too. We'll discuss that. I keep these points into my memory when we get to those. No, very good points. Very good points.
And questions are definitely welcome, and comments as well. But yeah, inshallah, we're going to discuss exactly that. So again, about the signs, right? The Imams have told us what the signs are, and it's good to know. But it's not good to get stuck in the loop of just examining the signs. And something that we see a lot today is as huge world events are taking place, community events are taking place, things that shake people to the core of their beliefs and trying to understand the world. We get caught up sometimes in just thinking about, what is happening, what does this mean, is this something in relevance to Imam Zaman? A lot of times people get stuck in a loop, right? Maybe they see the war happening in Iran, maybe they see the turmoil in the Middle East, and they start to hyper-analyze and talk about this and really try to understand how this plays into effect of the greater scheme. I remember on YouTube I've seen videos where as soon as something happened, I remember like when the Syria fell and the new government came, the first video I saw online was, very many Shia people going online giving their opinions about what does this mean for the coming of Imam Zaman, right? And we get stuck in only analyzing that part. This world event happened, we get stuck looking at that, and we talk about the sign. But what happens is that they really are shifting the focus of what it's meant to do, right? Maybe something happens in the world and we start to think about it, talk about it, but a lot of the times we lose focus of the fact that we are still waiting for Imam Zaman. And are we ready for Imam Zaman to come if something does happen, right? And do we have the recognition of Marifat to, when he does come, be on the path and be one of his servants? And when this sign actually doesn't, or this world event actually doesn't bring the Imam about, many people start to lose focus. And they start to lose hope and thinking all these things are happening in the world, but where is Imam Zaman? Why is he not here yet, right? And we lose hope. And this is a cycle that we want to get out of, right? We want to shift the narrative and not think a big event in the world may happen and Imam Zaman still hasn't come, but really think about something in the world is happening, and if Imam Zaman does come, are we ready for him, right? And this was a question that actually companions had came and asked the Imams even before. And we have this hadith from Imam Raza where he talks about this exact situation.
Yeah, so we all said the Sufyani, the individual who would rise in the region of Levant, right? Like, for instance, when the Sufyani came, when people assumed like Syria fell, right? There's a lot of Shias, like he was saying, like, go out and say, yeah, this is the Sufyani, it's time to come in love, right? So someone came to Imam Raza alayhi salam, and they asked him the same question about the Sufyani being hatmi, from the inevitable, right? Like sister, you said that, Allah can make it happen overnight, right? So if you continue here, they asked Imam Rada, can there be abrogation? Can Allah change something that Ahlul Bayt have said is going to be hatmi? Like for sure this sign is going to happen. Imam Rada replied by saying yes. Then they reply to Imam Rada saying, okay, if they can be changed in something that will happen that's hatmi, that's for sure that's going to happen, then we're afraid that the zuhur of the Imam will also be changed. But what did Imam Raza reply by? He said, no, the Mahdi is from the Mi'ad. It's from the promise of Allah. And Allah says in the Quran that وَلَا تَخْلُفُ الْمِيعَادِ. He never goes back on his promises. Right? The Mahdi is from the Mi'ad. That's something which is promised. Right? So when people go through that cycle, right, and they see, okay, they get so focused on maybe that Sufyani event, maybe whatever event that's happening, and they become super analyzed over that. Right? They lose focus on the main thing, which is Imam Zaman. So the question comes up: are the signs still relevant? Yes, they are relevant, right? Because in the time of these turbulent times, we'll know exactly what's going to happen, right? The individual that knows that this is something that could happen, right? This is something that the Shias will get tested with. He'll be ready during that time, right? If they do happen. But they're not the only focus, right?
And similar to this, we want to bring an analogy, and we drove about, I think, like hour 45 minutes to get here, and along the route, our destination is of course to come to the center, right? Along the route, I was a little bit thirsty. I'm thinking, should I tell Muslim we'll stop for a coffee, right? And then there's some distractions on the route that I'm thinking, but the ultimate goal is we want to get to the center, inshallah. And this is what the signs sometimes in the world are like, right? They're a little bit of a distraction. They can be maybe natural disasters happening in the world, and we're thinking the world's coming to an end, or we see the corruption that's happening in the governments and society, and we start to think there's only way for this salvation is if Imam Zaman came, and all these things around us, right? At the end of the day, they're just road signs, right? On your route to GPS. Yeah, you see them, but are you going to go and stop over there? No, you want to get to your destination, which is for us ultimately Imam Zaman. And we start to ask ourselves then, how do we know if we're on the right track, on the right route, right? And if we're not focused on the signs and we know that we need to just get to the center, how do I know I'm on the track of Imam Zaman? And there's a simple analogy. The same thing we used to get here was a GPS, right? Our GPS is actually guidance, patience, and submission, right? Guidance in the fact that we trust in the Imam to guide us and bring him closer to us, and we work to be on that path of Vilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen and ultimately of Imam Zaman, right? And patience. The time during the Zuhur of Imam Zaman is not something meant to be easy. It is a test for the people at the end of the day. It requires people to be steadfast. We see this numerous times in the history of the Aima. One example that comes to mind is with the tragedy of Karbala. Sayyidah Zainab had a journey to go from Karbala to Sham. Right? What had got her through that journey? What got her to help protect the overall imamate, the vilayat of Imam Hussain, was patience. She knew she had to be patient. She knew she had to protect Imam Sajjad, right? In the same way, you also have submission. It's a time where we have to really understand, are we ready to submit to the Imam and what he's asked for us to do? And we also see this in Karbala. We have people like Mullah Abbas, Hazrat Abbas, who his whole life, he was bred to be a warrior, a protector of Imam Hussain, to fight in this one battle. Someone who was born from the dua of Bibi Fatima, to only fight for Imam Hussain and protect him, right? At the end of the day, Imam Hussain tells him, you're not going to fight today, right? You can only go and get the water, but no offensive battle. And who knows what would have happened if Hazrat Abbas was able to fight. But he stayed true to the will of his Imam. And he submitted to what his Imam said without question. And this is what we need to follow, right? These same principles of guidance, patience, and submission. So no matter what kind of signs we may see on our journey, and maybe we don't even have highway signs telling us where to go, but we know that the track and the route and the destination is to get to Imam Islam, right? And that's the main focus. So maybe we can skip over this a little bit. I think you guys have also answered this question, right? How important are the signs to the reappearance? yeah, it's there for you to understand, to know, but it's not the ultimate end goal, right? The ultimate end goal again is Imam Zaman.
This is summed up in a very nice hadith from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says, "Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad." He says, وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَلَيْسَ لَهُ إِمَامٌ. Right, this is a hadith that we've all heard before. The one who dies without an imam, as in a bayat on his neck, right? The ahad, the dua ahad that we read every morning, we make a bayat to Imam Zaman, right? One who dies without having an imam, مَاتَ مِيتَةً جَاهِلِيَّةً. This individual dies a death of jahiliyyah, the pre-era, the jahiliyyah days, as if he dies like that without knowing the imam. Right? He doesn't have his destination on lock, right? He's going here, he's going there. Anytime it flows, it's going, right? But then the Imam says on the other side, right? وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَهُوَ عَارِفٌ لِإِمَامِهِ. The one who dies with the recognition of his Imam. He knows the likes and dislikes of the Imam. He knows what the Ahlul Bayt have said in order to prepare for Imam Zaman. He knows his responsibilities in this time that he has to uphold. He's not just going based on his personal bias, right? I think Imam Zaman is going to be like this, so I'm going to do like this thing in my life to prepare for it. I'm going to go to the gym every single day and get super swole for Imam Zaman. But that's the focus, that's it. He's put his own bias on Imam Zaman. That's not it, right? He recognized the duties of Imam Zaman that he has to uphold to Imam Zaman. And then what does Imam Jafar Sadiq say? He says, وَلَمْ يُذَرَّهُ تَقَدُّمُ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ أَوْ تُؤَخِّرُهُ. As in the advancement or the postponement of this affair, as in the coming of Imam Zaman, is not going to harm him. So if this individual's on the highway, right, whether he makes it to his destination or not, his destination is the first thing in his mind, right? So within his life, if the zuhur happens tonight, or if it happens after he passes away, it does not matter to him. Because he's doing the same thing that he would be doing if Imam Zaman was here. Because he recognizes Imam Zaman. Imam Zaman is not only a concept in his mind, he recognizes Imam Zaman and he upholds those responsibilities to Imam Zaman, right? And look at the fazila of this individual that Imam Jafar Sadiq talks about. He says, وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَهُوَ عَارِفٌ لِإِمَامِهِ كَانَ كَمَنْ هُوَ مَعَ الْمَهْدِي فِي فُسْطَاطِهِ. It is as if he was with Imam Mahdi in his own tent. And when it comes time for Muharram, we say, "O Imam Hussain, Ya laytani kunna ma'akum." Right? I wish we were with you, Imam Hussain, to achieve this great victory. Right? We have this opportunity in this day and age. So how many of us will capitalize on that opportunity? So if we see, like, so the uncle said over here, right, we're all doing, some sort of intizar, we're saying, Allahumma jalla waliyak al-faraj, right? We seem to be active awaiters. But then if we're seeing these signs and we're active awaiters and we're doing the things that are right, then what's causing Imam Zaman to not come, right?
So this means there's some barriers to the reappearance of the Imam. And we want to go into a closer look of what these barriers are. But first, also open up the floor to understand what you guys think. Are there societal causes for the reason the delay of Imam Zuhur? Are there other reasons? What do you guys think? What are the barriers that we see maybe and the reasons why Imam still hasn't come? Yes. Hypocrisy. Yeah. Something that we know, in the hadith we know that's going to be very widespread too. Yes.
Getting indulged and getting fed up kind of with what the dunya has over your deen.
Yeah. Yeah, my friends say dunyadari person only care about what is happening in the dunya, right? And that's maybe on a personal level, but also on a communal level as well.
What else? If we're doing everything, we're doing Muharram, we're doing Shahr Ramadan, we're coming out from Majlis, why isn't Imam Zaman here? Yeah.
I think अभी हमारा ईमान जो है वो कमजोर है। शायद हम उनके ज़हूर के लिए तैयार नहीं है, वो इसलिए कि जो विलायत अमीरुल मोमिनीन है वो अभी तक कंप्लीट नहीं है हमारे ज़हूर में। जब तक वो कंप्लीट नहीं होगी तो मौला का ज़हूर नहीं हो सकता। बेसिक मौला का ज़हूर तो हो चुका है, सिर्फ हमारे देखने में कमी है, हम उनको देख नहीं पाते। मे बी वो यहाँ पर भी अभी है, वो सिर्फ हमारी कमी है, वो हमारे अंदर वो कुछ चीज़ें हैं जो हम उनको देख नहीं पाते। तो जब तक वो ठीक नहीं होंगे, जब फिक्स होके वो हम उनको देख पाएंगे। और अपीयरेंस का मतलब अपीयरेंस उनकी यही है कि जब हम तैयार होंगे उनको देखने के लिए। ये मेन रीजन है हमारे अभी तक उनके ना हमें नजर आने की क्योंकि मौला का फरमान भी है कि हुज्जत के बगैर दुनिया कायम नहीं रह सकती तो हुज्जत तो है दुनिया में यही ईमान का हिस्सा है हमारा वो है नजर आते हैं नहीं है यही हमारा ईमान है कि हुज्जत के बगैर दुनिया नहीं चल सकती आपकी कोई भी जो सेंचुरी आती है किसी भी दौर में आपकी बैक फॉरवर्ड चले जाएं हर इमाम के दौर में हुज्जत का होना बहुत जरूरी है हुज्जत के बगैर दुनिया कायम नहीं रह सकती सो देयर इज अ मेन रीजन कि हमारे अंदर कमियां हैं जो हमको देख नहीं पा रहे हैं.
Yeah, so the people essentially are not ready themselves for the Imam. There's a beautiful hadith, actually, it reminds me, this is a bit off script, but me somebody's comment reminded me of this. There's a hadith in Ghaibat al-Numani, a book that's for the occultation of Imam Zaman, compiled for hadiths in this regard, where it says that if a believer went 40 days without actually seeing the Imam, he would go blind. Right? And upon reading this hadith, the question that came to me was, I know for 40 days, I personally have not had a recollection in my mind where I was able to see Imam Zaman. Right? So what does this mean? 40 days we haven't seen the Imam, the person goes blind. Right? It means that we do see the Imam, maybe in certain gatherings, right? Gatherings like this, where words about the Ahl Bayt are told, people or believers are brought together, majalis, jashan, these events where the remembrance of the Ahl Bayt are there, Imam Zaman is surely there, right? And that's where the believers are able to see the Imam in those 40 days, right?
We see Imam Zaman today in different ways, such as how everyone's able. One example was how everyone's able to go for ziyada and come back safely. That was a good example we used, and different events where we see it shows our side of love.
Yeah, I mean the hadith say exactly that. It says yarawnahu wa la ya'rifunahu, as in we see him, but we don't recognize him. Right? That hijab is based on our own mistakes that we have done. Right? It's that hijab that we have set against Imam Zaman himself. Right?
Well, one thing is, I don't know, is it narration or is it hadith? When Zahur will happen and somebody will see actual Imam, a lot of people, they're going to recognize, oh, I saw this one the time. Yeah. So I don't know, that was a hadith or was narration by someone, I forgot. But that thing will happen, I guess.
There is a hadith regarding that, yeah. There'll be someone who's very familiar. It's like, oh, we've seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, the hijab that we're setting is on our own will, right?
Good, Hassan. So let's go a little bit deeper into this, right? And to make this a little bit simpler, we've coined some terms which are not terms in hadith, but something that we've made just for us to understand a little bit better, right? We're all in this moment in the world where we're doing Intezaar, waiting for Imam Zaman, for him to come. But there's two types of ways to do this, right? There's someone that is passive in their Intezaar and someone that is active. Both individuals are awaiting the Imam, but they're doing it at different levels, right? And we're going to examine both of these things a little bit deeper. And we'll start with someone who is in the passive form. And a lot of these that we'll see are actually made from our own faults that we've felt in our life that put us in this category. And one of them is that we don't act for the solutions of the Imam during the layla, right? What Imam Zaman and the other Imams have told us to do during this time period, we don't follow that simply. Right? And it's not something even that's in our mind to acknowledge, to keep in mind every single day, right? It's just a past thought.
Yeah, to add on to that point, right, there's one of the tawqis. So the tawqis are the letters that were given to the Nawab al-Khas during the time of Ghaibat al-Sughra, minor occultation. And we still have some of these letters. So one of the letters to Sheikh Mufid, it says, if the Shias were united on the ahad, on the covenant that was said, the meeting of Imam Zaman would not have been delayed, right? So is Dua Ahad that for this individual who's doing passive Intezaar, right? Dua Ahad is almost just like a check in the box for him, right? Check in the box. I don't really read it. I don't really ponder upon it. I don't really try to enforce and uplift that and barkharar that in my life, right? So the next one is someone who keeps falling into the pits of despair, right? That cycle that Mehdi was talking about, so focused on the science, so focused on the political events, and everything that's going on, all the geopolitical climate, right? Lose his focus of Imam Zaman itself, right? Am I just going to be a news reporter right now and know all the aspects of the news that's happening right now, or am I going to also work to uphold the responsibilities I have on my neck, right?
The next one is someone that forgets the Imam. And this is something, I think I'm guilty of as well, right? And we don't start to think in our daily life, how does Imam Zaman revolve around this? We are quick to forget him. And we only remember him maybe in times where it's 15 Sha'ban, the Wiladat, right? That's when we put our focus on Imam Zaman. Or I remember when I was in college, I was struggling. I have a big exam coming up, I would do dua. Oh Mola, help me in this exam, help me pass. I do great on my exam, alhamdulillah. And after I do great, I don't even think, oh, let me say thank you to Imam Zaman for helping me, right? I only asked him in that time of need, but not one at the time where I should thank him as well, right? We're quick to forget the Imam. And why is this really something passive? If we even examine in our own life, right? We all have families. If you think about it, you cannot maintain a relationship being forgetful, right? Maybe you have a brother or sister that lives in a different city, different state, right? If you don't call them, you don't text them, you don't talk to them, they're going to feel like you forgot them, right? The connection that you had with that family member is no longer there. Same with Imam Zaman, right? If we don't build that connection, we're going to be people that forget him, and he will feel that forgetfulness.
And one of the other qualities of someone who does practice of Intezaar is someone that prioritizes their own aspirations over the aspirations of the Imam, right? For instance, right, I try to go climb the career ladder, right? I try to become the best in my career, right? And in order to do that, I have to sacrifice times at the masjid. Sometimes we were out here late, right? It's time there's late night majlises and things of that nature, right? But I'm not going to, this individual will sacrifice the majlis just to make sure he's up for that team's meeting early in the morning, or that project that he has due tomorrow. Some of us are in school, right? This individual will sacrifice that important night of Wiladat or Shahadat in order to pursue his own desires, right? And we see this a lot of times, like this came up like when you look at the journey of Imam Hussein, right, to Karbala. A lot of times like individuals will be like, I'm going to be a doctor and serve Imam Zaman in his army. I'm going to be, an engineer, and I'll pay him all the money that he needs, right? Similar thing happened in the journey to Karbala, where Imam Hussein would go door to door on the way to Karbala, and he would ask people, hey, are you going to join me? He's like, Imam Hussein, I have a horse, a super strong, fast horse you can use in your battle. I have a really nice sword. I have, this, that. I have some money that you can have dates, whatever it is. But Imam Hussein didn't want all that. He wanted their submission, the submission of the individuals.
The other one is a passive Intezaar person is someone that becomes lazy in his duties, right? And this can be as simple as even, the wajibat. We're lazy even on maybe our time for namaz, or we're relaxed in the things that we know we need to do every single day. Are we truly going to be ready for Imam Zaman when he comes to ask us to do what he needs, right?
And the last but not least, right, one of the qualities is this individual doesn't attempt to increase his knowledge on the Imam, right? The Ahlul Bayt have left us with gems and jewels, right? The ones that we haven't even, that have completely guided us and told us exactly what to do in this time. And for example, like we brought a book here, Brother Mohsin has it right there. It's called Mikyal al-Makarim. We'll discuss this in the second part of the presentation, where it talks about the responsibilities that we have to uphold. Individual has no idea of those responsibilities. The last bit of Islamic studies that this individual had was Sunday school. There's no dawam, there's no continuation of learning more about the Imam, reading the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, which have gotten to us with such hardship, right?
So, we made these qualities based off what we felt like aligned with what we see in our own lives, right? And we have to ask our question, if this is the categories we fall into, are we truly then someone waiting for Imam Zaman? If we're being passive, will we really be there to be servants of the Imam? And there's actually a beautiful hadith from Imam Raza that talks about the trials and the tests during this time, where he says, by Allah, that which you look forward to, the zuhur, will not be until you are tested and sifted, and until none of you remains, save the least and the least, fewer and fewer, right? And the point is that the times during the zuhur, will be an immense amount of tests on the believers. There was only a few people left that are the true servants of the Imam. Right? For example, I remember when I was a kid, we would get Halloween candy bags. I'm going through, I'm sorting it out. I found the Kit Kat, right? And I just wanted those 3 Kit Kats. Everything else can give away, go to trash, right? It's like that one golden nugget that you find. And those are the types of people Imam Zaman will truly need, right? The ones that have been through the test and are ready to serve him.
Now let's look at the individuals who do active intar, the likes of yourself, right? So one of the qualities of this individual is he feels the presence of the Imam, right? He understands every single action, whether I'm doing it at home, how am I speaking to my own family, right? How am I acting with my co-workers? Am I a different person in the masjid versus am I a different person outside of the masjid, right? Are these 2 different personalities, right? This individual understands that the Imam is viewing all of his actions, right? The Imam is the father of all of us. And imagine, we do something to disappoint the Imam, put an upset, make our Imam upset. That's the least that we should not do. Right? And
there's actually there's a hadith that I'm remembering, or a story between Hazrat Salman and Imam Ali. Right, Hazrat Salman, the greatest companion of Imam Ali. What made Hazrat Salman so special, right? And even the other companions during Imam Ali's time would ask them, why is Salman so special? What does he have that we don't have? Right? And it was this quality, feel the presence of the Imam. And they asked, Hazrat Abu Zar comes and he asks Imam Ali, how is Salman this close to you? How is his level and his rank so high? And Imam Ali says, you remember this moment when you felt like fighting, right? You reached for your sword, but Salman didn't. Because he looked at me and he knew what I wanted, right? He truly understood what the Imam wanted at all times, and just by the body language of the Imam, he could read what he needed, right? He didn't act on his own will, and he felt the presence of the Imam at that time.
One of the other qualities of this individual is this individual prioritizes their duties towards him. Number 1, prioritizing duties towards Imam Zaman means recognizing the duties, what the Ahlul Bayt have told us to do and told us to uphold in this time of the ghaibah, right? Sometimes it's for the person who's doing passive intizar, it's just a clock in, clock out mentality, right? This individual is going above and beyond, right? There's, yes, of course, he has his due diligence of work 8 hours a day, but then after 8 hours a day, right, what is he doing? Is that time spent serving Imam Zaman, or is it spent, just in vain?
The other is, it is someone that can defend themselves from the misconceptions of Imam. I know, like, I open my social media apps, and the first thing I see is someone attacking the Shias, right? And not just attacking them on a physical level, but actually on a beliefs level. Right? Saying the Shia believe in this, they believe in this about Imam Ali, right? And the question is, are we the types of people that are working to strengthen our belief, so that when we see these misconceptions about the Vilayat of Imam Ali, about the belief of Imamat, that it doesn't shake us, that we're vaccinated, our foundation is strong, and that we can defend those things that people are talking about the Imam. A lot of times you'll see many people say, oh, it's impossible for the Shias believe in an Imam that hasn't been there for 1200 years. It's impossible for this Imam to live this long, for this person, for an individual, right? Do we know why? Do we know the reasons? Do we have the belief of and the understanding of why someone can be in this position, right? That's someone in active intizar that knows these qualities.
And these are the same questions that our own kids will be asking us, right? So we should be prepared for those. And this individual is also anxious and desperate to meet the Imam. Now when I think of this one, I think of the story of Uwais al-Qarani. Who's heard of the story of Uwais, right? So Uwais al-Qarani was an individual whose mother was very sick. And he really had this passionate desire to go and meet Rasulullah. And there was this instance where he got a little window to go and visit Rasulullah in Medina. And at that point, someone would be taking care of his mother. So when he went to Medina to go visit Rasulullah, Rasulullah was gone in the expedition. And he was heartbroken. That was his only chance in his life to go visit Rasulullah, and he wasn't able to do it. So he went back home to fulfill his responsibility to his mother, right, to take care of his mother. When Rasulullah comes back from this expedition, he says a statement. He says, I smell the fragrance of Jannah coming from the place of Qaran, right? Uwais was from Qaran. right? So imagine for us being like this for Imam Zaman, right?
Yeah, and even to put it in you know, a more context of daily life, right? Me and Ali flew out here. We're originally from Houston. We flew yesterday. You know, I get on the flight. The first thing I make sure to do is text my mom. Yeah, I'm on the flight. I just boarded. We just landed, etc. I'm gonna come back home. They're gonna be waiting for us to come back home. They're gonna be anxious to meet us. They're gonna prepare some food, right? They have that desperation that, okay, this person went on a journey. I want to make sure when I see them, I feel happy, right? This is the same level that we should have with Imam Zaman, right? As much as we long to maybe see a long lost relative, a family member, that's how we should feel with the Imam as well.
So one of the other qualities is this individual prays for sincerity for the zuhur, right? So why do we pray for Imam Zaman, right? When we look at, for instance, one of the hadiths from Umrada, which says the Imam is like a comforting friend, a caring father, right? A caring mother towards her infant child, right? So if Imam has that level of care for us, right? Do we reciprocate that to Imam Zaman, right? When we go outside the house, our parents take out sadaqah for us. Do we take out sadaqah for Imam Zaman's safety, right? When we go to ziyarat, we pray for our parents, right? We pray for their health. We pray for all their hardships that they're going through. Are we thinking about the hardships that Imam Zaman is going through? Are we praying for him? If we truly have this relationship with him that he's my father, he's my true spiritual father, then I will naturally pray for him, right?
And Uncle, to the point that you brought up, I think this kind of aligns with it more, where we're saying everyone in the world, there's 30 million people in Arba'in for Ziyarat al-Imam Hussain, everyone's saying Allah Jal, right? Where's Imam Zaman? 30 million Shias together. I mean, subhanAllah, it's a miracle that people are able to do that. But everyone is saying Allah Jal. You see on the backpacks, they all have this Dua Faraj on there, right? So where is Imam Zaman? There's a hadith from Imam Sadiq where he talks about the situation with Bani Israel, right, when they were waiting for the coming of Prophet Musa. And at that time, Bani Israel, they decided they're going to go into the desert and take all of their families with them. For 40 days, they spent their time in the desert doing dua, with desperation, with sincerity, and praying for the coming of Prophet Musa. And Imam Sadiq says that because of this dua that they did, with sincerity, with anxiousness, with desperation to meet the Imam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Prophet Musa to the people of Bani Israel 140 years earlier than actually he was going to do, right? So this is probably one of the more important things, right? Of course, saying Allah Jal, just out of repetition never means anything, right? It's the sincerity that we carry with those words.
Yeah, and those individuals, Bani Israel, they realized that the fact that, you know, true salvation, right, their saving of all their problems is truly in the hands of Imam Zaman. That's their lifeline. If you're in the middle of the water and there's one boat, that's your lifeline. That's Imam Zaman, right? That's the true solution. They came to that understanding with sincerity.
The other aspect is someone that is always increasing his ma'rifat or recognition of the Imam, right? They're making sure that they're increasing their beliefs, strengthening their beliefs, understanding of the Imam, reading about him. And that can be done in many ways. Maybe it's, you know, picking up a book, reading a hadith, watching a lecture, attending the majalis, being in the presence of where the words of the Ahlul Bayt are spoken, right? And constantly recognizing that life is a journey where you are achieving to be greater and progress in understanding your Imam and your recognition of ma'rifat of him.
If you recall that hadith from that powerful green slide, which was talking about that individual, he understands that his Imam is alive. He sees his Imam, right? Whether it's not with his physical eyes maybe, but he understands that and he upholds that. That's because he has ma'rifat, right? He recognizes the position of the Imam, like you said, right? This whole creation is dependent on the Imam, right? The survival of this creation is dependent on the Imam.
So the question is now, how do we actually do active Intezaar and go beyond just, as we spoke earlier, the knowledge of the science? And this is a question that the Imams themselves have also answered.
There's a hadith here where Imam Baqir al-Islam tells Imam Jafar Sadiq al-Islam in his wasiyah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. He says, Ya bunayya a'arif manazil al-shi'ati ala qadri riwayatihim wa ma'arifatihim. Oh my son, recognize the ranks, the levels of the Shia. How? By how hard they do matam? Or by, how much money they make? No. Imam is saying, by their recognition, the amount of riwayat that they know, the narrations that they know, right? And the marifat of those narrations, right? The recognition of those narrations. Because Imam continues over here, he says, فَإِنَّ مَعَرِفَةَ هِيَ الدِّرَايَةَ لِلرِّوَايَةِ, right? Because surely ma'arifah is what? It's the comprehending of those traditions, right? Comprehending those traditions, that means that I understand those traditions to the point that give me a level of basirat in my life. I see this happening, right? I see this turbulent condition coming in my life. I know how to waver through those conditions based on the hadith of Ahlul Bayt, right? And then he continues over here. وَبِالدِّرَايَةِ لِلرِّوَايَةِ يَعْلُ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِلَى أَقْصَى دَرَجَةِ الْإِيمَانِ, right? And if they comprehend these riwayah, right? A mu'min will rise to the highest level of iman. Right? Why is the lack of iman there? Because we don't have a connection with the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Right? So we have to work on this marifah.
Put it in arbitrary numbers based on this hadith. Not real numbers, this is actually not what's going to happen, but if we were to just think about it, 10 hadiths, maybe you're at level 1 rank that Imam Baqir is talking about. 50, level 2, 100, maybe you get to level 3. Right? Purpose is, the more hadiths we understand, the more familiar we are with the words of the Ahlul Bayt. That is what grants us to level up, rank up, right, and be closer to the Imam. Like many times people ask, what was it that made the companions of Imam Hussain different? Right? What made those 72 different than everyone else? It was that they understood the words of the Imam and what he was asking. Right? They had the understanding of what the Imam needs, and because they were familiar with the words of the Imam. Right? They understood the words of the Ahlul Bayt. So in conclusion, you need a deep understanding of the hadith and be familiar with these words of the Imam.
There's a really nice hadith here where Rasulullah is speaking to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he tells him this. He says, know that the most amazing people in faith and the greatest in certainty, yaqeen, right? The thing that we aim to have in our life, right? Yaqeen, so we can have aqsa darajat al-iman, right? Is a group of people in the last of times, and that's referring to us. We're the people in the last of times, right? Like before the coming of Imam Zaman. Why are they the best? Imam Ali asks him. He says, because these are the ones who did not meet me, the Prophet, and the proof was veiled from them, right? But what did they do in this time? They believed in the black over the white. I think they had this yaqeen over the black over the white. What is Rasulullah talking about here? The black over the white. Anyone? They had yaqeen in the black turbans over the white turbans, or what is it? What is he saying over here?
Unseen.
Unseen, right? So over here, unseen would be like a very tafsiri understanding of it. Right here, it's simple, right? He's referring to the narration. Oh, the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt, right? He's referring to the pen, the ink of the pen over the paper, right? We have so many narrations that have been left from the Ahlul Bayt about what to do during this time of the Ghaiba, right? And they've built yaqeen into it, and they uphold these responsibilities, right? So the highest people, the highest level of people with certainty and yaqeen have never seen the prophets or the imams, but they believe just by reading the Holy Quran and the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, right? And this enables them to be eligible to receive the yaqeen, where Allah will bestow that marifat within their hearts, right? This makes them eligible for that.
So doing active intizar, right? Studying the traditions and the sayings of the Ahlul Bayt, and of course with that, comprehending them. And of course, one of the things is you have to always pray and to have tawfiq, to be put in the opportunities where you can continue to do this, right? Pray to Allah, let me continue to be on a path where I have the opportunity to read the words of the Ahlul Bayt, to attend the majalis of the Ahlul Bayt, to attend the ziyarat of the Ahlul Bayt, right? And of course, lastly, always praying for the zuhur and the reappearance of Imam Islam, right? And with that, we can be people that are doing actually active Intezaar. And I kind of want to stop here and see if there's any questions from anyone, any topics that we discussed over here that were confusing or we should spend more time on.
Or if there was any questions that we missed.
I was statement.
Yeah.
When Bibi Fatima was attacked,
Right.
she called for Imam Mahdi.
Of course.
That is enough to make sure that there is Imam Mahdi and he is going to take the revenge on those two guys and maybe other guys for atrocities they committed on Bibi Fatima. And that is enough to have faith in Imam Mahdi.
Yeah.
That is my approach.
That's right. Nothing.
They came and burned the house instead of giving her the condolences of her father's death. They burned the house, and there's a story about the broken ribs somewhere else, but I don't want to take the time for the people. But slight damage to the rib causes breathing in and breathing out very painful, and she had so many ribs were broken, and I don't know, 90 days living in that painful situation was tremendous.
Yeah, when the criminals can do that to the daughter of the Prophet, then Karbala with Hazrat Ali Asghar is nothing far-fetched, right? And inshallah, Imam Zaman, when he comes, these will be the first individuals he will take revenge from. Yeah.
And I've heard one story that there was a lady who was doing Hajj, and her husband was in a wheelchair. And there were 2-3 family members there. She was pushing the wheelchair, and the wheelchair toppled over. The guys who were doing the Hajj, going for Hajj, they could care less. And I think she asked for Imam Zamana, and somebody appeared with 5 bottles of cold water and picked up of her husband from the wheelchair and straightened it out and gave the water. Yes, and that was enough to understand in that heat, getting a 5 bottles of cold water in that heat for the family, who else would have done that? So it is our problem that we do not connect with him. We should connect with our Imam. Whether we see him or not, it doesn't matter. He sees us, and he hears everything what we have feeling for it.
Yeah. She called upon Imam Zaman because she had yaqeen in Imam Zaman, right? That he is her true savior, who's watching out for him in every single instance. Because he's an individual who has become, and living within her life. Someone who's actual, not just a concept in my mind. I'm just saying Allah Majid, right? Yeah.
I have a question. So like going back to the part about like the societal like barriers.
Yeah.
It's like why the Imam hasn't reappeared yet. But like so at least like from my understanding, like the Imam is supposed to come in a time of fitna, right? And there's like immense fitna within our ummah. But like can't you say like the Imam, but I heard like some things like, oh, like, the Imam isn't appearing because of how much fitna we're having as a ummah as well. Like, we see like, our own people just dividing into each other. Like, but then is it like safe to say like, like is he gonna come in a time during immense fitna, or like is this a barrier as well for him not coming? Yeah, because like he's gonna come when obviously like when we're all ready, But the thing is like, how can we be ready, like, when we're all divided against each other?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple causes of the occultation. Right? One of the things, like you said, right, is the hadith states specifically that he will come when his remembrance is the least. And if you remember the hadith that our uncle said, also, is that the individual when Imam Zaman comes, they'll say, "Go back to where you came from, O son of Fatima." So these are individuals who recognize Imam Zaman as being the daughter, or being the son of Bibi Fatima, right? So, are the Shias ready for that? Do you have anything to add on there?
I mean, I think your question is, if the Shias aren't united, then can Imam Zaman come, in essence? So this isn't actually a necessary thing for there to be, because at the end of the day, the fitan is a test for the people, right? Now, the point is, why are the hadiths of the Ahlul Bayt so important? Because as you see the fitan happen, the problems during the occultation come about, you understand what the Imam has prescribed for you already. So when you see the disunity, of course, I'm not saying stay disunited. Of course, a goal of a Shia is to be united with their brothers. But there will be times when the Imam, before the Imam comes, of course, there will be disunity. And maybe it won't be in just our communities, maybe it'll be on a world level, we don't know. But the idea is that disregarding maybe sometimes what is happening with the unity of the Shias, we ourselves still have to know on a personal level what has Imam asked of us, right? And be united with our own people, our family, our immediate people, in understanding this concept, right? And sometimes we think, you know, like if we look at, for example, the people that were with Imam Hussein on the day of Karbala, I mean, thousands of people told Imam Hussein, I'm with you from Kufa, right? Many people sent letters to him. Many people came even to Imam Sadiq. They said, Imam Sadiq, why don't you rise, right? Imam Sadiq tests one of his believers, the person that said, I'm a Shia of you, I'm a Muhib of you, Imam, I love you. I have 10,000 people waiting to come and help you. Imam Sadiq said, you know, go jump in this tandoor. Right? The person said, oh, why would I do that? Right? Another companion comes with Imam Sadiq, he immediately goes in. Right? Imam Sadiq said, bring me 5 people like this that are strong. Right? Not to say both individuals weren't Shias, right? Weren't lovers or followers of the Ahlul Bayt, but the level that they were at was different. Right? So unity, of course, is something that we strive for. So what is the priority? You yourself being ready. Right? And inshallah, we hope that we can be unified and everyone is at that level. But we know that the tests are going to be hard, just like the hadith where the Imam says people will be sifted. And those hadiths that we're talking, that we have brought, they're not for the masses, they're not in regards to the general world, they're for the Shias. Right? They're for the believers of Vilayat. Right? And so we can see it's going to be a time where there will be tests. Does that answer the question?
No, we'll discuss a little bit more.
So we talked about the concepts of active intizar, what we can do, what to keep in our mind. Now we want to see what are the actionable steps that we can take, right? That can maybe hasten the zuhur.
What do you guys think? What can we do to hasten the coming of Imam Zaman? Yes?
I think it starts with intention and doing every action to please the Imam and please Allah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's huge. She said it starts with intention. You know, even if it be a little intention, right? Make an intention to read Dua Ahad every single day, right? And this is my bayat that I'm going to do. Maybe I miss a day, and then I make it up, right? So it's sincere intention, right? Something to keep up. Yep. That's good.
So now what, right? We talked about these ideas of awaiting and how we can actively await to keep Imam Zaman in our mind. Let's look at some of those things that we can actually do in our day-to-day.
So the first thing here, right? Realize your connection with the Imam, right? Where are we standing in with Imam Zaman, right? We talked so much about, okay, you know, when the Imam comes, this will happen, that will happen, right? But in this day and age, how do I see Imam Zaman? Is he a concept in my mind? Something I just talk about in this workshop, but then when I go home, completely forgetful of the Imam, right? Is it someone that just gets revived on 15th Sha'ban, his remembrance? Or is it something every single day, every single minute, I'm thinking about Imam Zaman? What can I do? Okay, well, is Imam Zaman seeing my action right now? Is he happy with my action? Right? Just like he mentioned the story of Hazrat Salman, right? Hazrat Salman had the thought of Imam Ali in his mind at all times, right? Is Imam Ali going to be razi with this action, or is he going to be sad, right? So realize that connection, and then find out what your responsibilities are. So this is the book that we wanted to mention. It's called Mikyal al-Makarim fi Fawaid al-Dua al-Mahdi, right? And this has 80 or so responsibilities that we should uphold in the time of the ghaiba. So when we go through the books of ghaiba, sometimes it gets very difficult. to look at all the things that we have to do during the time of the ghaiba, right? But Ayatollah Taqi Musavi Isfahani has done a very good job in putting 80 responsibilities on what we should do, what we should uphold on a day-to-day basis, right? So if we make the sincere niyat, the intention of upholding some of these, maybe reading about some of these, number one is to know what your responsibilities are, right? When you apply to a job, you look at the responsibility. You know, I want to be an active person who's doing Intezaar. I look at the qualifications and responsibilities I have to do. Can I do them, right? So we have to learn about those, right?
And for the people that are online, the book that Brother Ali is referring to is the same one that's on the screen. The last step is make a pledge to the Imam, right? Sometimes we're really easy to make a pledge with ourselves. I'm going to get straight A's this semester. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, try to get a bonus this year, right? Let's make a pledge to the Imam. Tell him that we will be with him, be in service of him, and make sure we take the steps needed to do that and hold ourselves accountable on these steps, right? Once you make a pledge to the Imam, it's not something that Imam takes light, right? He'll come and ask you, you said you were going to do this, will you do it, right? And hold yourself accountable to these. And just a few things that we put together just from our own thoughts of what are ways that we can do on a daily thing, on a daily routine maybe, for some actionable steps based on the responsibilities inside this book, right? One is to be in cooperation with the Shias to help the Imam. And we put here one actionable item as maybe create a reminder to have a group session with your fellow Shias to discuss about the Imam, the words of Ahl-Bayt. Maybe come together as a community to see what does your community need in regards to the Vilayat of Imam Zaman, how you can spread that together as a community, right? Or, within our own Houston brothers, we have a group, we meet up Wednesday night, we discuss, okay, Shaban is coming up, what should be a topic we talk about? Ghadir is coming up, what should be a topic we discuss? What about either Ghadir, maybe people need to know more about? We'll decide, we want to do a majlis on the Shahadat, let's book it, let's do it, let's tell everyone, right? Come together to spread the words of the Ahl-Bayt. Another one is to make him popular amongst the people. This is a responsibility that's told to spread the teachings of the Ahl-Bayt. One way we can do this is something really simple as just creating a group chat with your friends, family. Spread the words of Ahl-Bayt, post a hadith in there every single day. We have ones with our friends, we have some with our family. Of course, the ones that I get from my mother are always related to some things that I need to improve upon myself. The ones that I send to my friends are the really fun and cool hadiths that we enjoy, right? But this is still spreading the words of Ahl-Bayt, and we can do this together with our friends and with our family at the same time.
Now there's a hadith from the Imam which says, "Kunu zinatana wa la takunu zillatana." As in we go outside in our schools, we go outside in our workplace, right? Our actions, how do we interact with those individuals, right? When they see something good in us, right? They'll attribute us to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, right? This is the Shia of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. That's why he's doing that, right? So just by your actions, how you react with individuals within society, right? Even when you're driving, having road rage, and some of us wear hijab, and some of us, have beards. This is this is a way of just showing, right? Like for instance, you have a masjid here. How do we react with the neighbors, right? In this time, and then there's big programs. Are we going out and reaching out to, hey, we're gonna have a big program here. Maybe let them know in advance. Maybe give them a little gift, right? These are the Shias of Imam Jafar Sadiq. So we have to uphold that. So we make Imam Zaman popular based on our own actions. It's important. And last but not least, right? We talked so much about reading the hadith, reading the Quran, but this ma'rifat is not something that I can just read and understand and become a master and read all the books of hadith and just be a master. No, this is something which Allah places in the hearts of the ones who He loves, right? So we have to pray for this ma'rifat. This ma'rifah is not going to come, it's not ikhtisadi, it's not something that I can just go out and gain. It's not like a secular study, right? It's not like we go to engineering school, learn and get a degree and become engineers. No, it's not like that. This is something that Allah places in the heart of the individuals He loves. So we have to continuously pray for that. And there is a really beautiful dua, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Dua Ma'rifah, right? It says, Allahumma arifni nafsak, fa innaka in lam tu'arifni nafsaka lam arif nabiyak. Oh Allah, give me your recognition. Because if you don't give me your recognition, I won't be able to recognize the Prophet. And then if I don't recognize the Prophet, I won't be able to recognize the Imam. And if I don't recognize the Imam, I'll die a death of zalala. I'll live a life of zalala, right? So it's all dependent on our du'as, on our sincerity, on how much we want to know the Imam, right? So we pray to Allah for the tawfiq of, of being able to serve Imam Zaman and getting to know more about him.
And the last one is actually to seek intercession through Imam Zaman, right? Do tawassul, to talk with him, to speak with him, to ask him for help, right? One of the ways is every morning, give your salams to the Imam, read your dua ahad, make your allegiance to him, and tell him about your issues. Or maybe just somewhere a part of your day, right? Maybe that means having to put a reminder somewhere on your phone, or maybe that's you consciously thinking, before I go to sleep, I'm going to ask Imam Zaman to help me in this trial that I'm going through, right? But do something every single day consistently to where you build that connection every single day with him. And as we're doing some of these things, as we're doing some of these daily routines, right, to build this connection, we want to ask ourselves to keep in mind, right, what is the essence behind this step? How will I make sure that it's consistent and hold myself accountable? How will this help me gain marifat, right, of the Imam, which is the ultimate goal? And does this action increase my love for the Imam, right? A core concept of every single servant of the Imam is you have to have love for him, right? Or none of these things all come together. And then lastly, if things come about in my life that become barriers, how will I continue to still do these steps, right? And we put these questions here not for us to answer, but for you to answer for yourselves on a personal level as you do some of these things. So before we get to the Kahoot game, I want to stop and see if there's any questions, any comments before we kind of go forward.
Yeah, have you done anything for between Shia and Sunni? They have different conception. If you have Sunni friends, they have totally, some of them don't even believe in the Imam. So have you done any job or do you suggest anything?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen be successful is similar to the steps that we put here, which is the Hadith group chat, right? At the end of the day, a Sunni person still has, most of the time, will still have respect for that Imam Ali, Imam Hussain, the Panjatan, Bibi Fatima, right? Give them those words of the Ahlul Bayt, right? Anyone can read the words of the Ahlul Bayt and still be touched by it. Why is it that we see in India, or we go to Arbaeen, we see people that are Christian, Hindu who still come to Imam Hussain? Because Imam Hussain is not just for us Shia, but everyone can be touched by the tragedy of Karbala. Same way, the words of the Ahlul Bayt, you give it to some person, maybe that marifat comes to them. So I think it first starts with just, maybe before you get to the Imam Zaman portion, maybe just show them some words of the Imam.
They know the name. Everybody say Imam
Of course,
Mahdi.
yeah, of course.
My Sunni friends, they know, yeah, Imam Mahdi, but they don't know what is in between.
Yeah.
Panjatan also,
Yeah.
मैं तो पंजतन का गुलाम
Yeah.
सब जाते हैं,
Yeah.
मर भी जाते हैं.
Yeah.
There was murder in Pakistan because that guy was Sunni and he was reading this or other things, So they killed him during the daytime. पता होगा आप लोग सबको.
Yeah, of course.
So पंजतन का भी आवाज लोग बिल्कुल ही खराब हैं. Some of the Shias are so, Sunnis are so against.
Yeah. And I think what we can just do our job to give them that opportunity in some way, right? It's up to Allah to help them at the end of the day and guide them.
My granddaughter goes to UCLA and they have a big problem between Shia and Sunnis. She's dealing with that. She's sitting quiet, not saying anything.
Well, she's doing a sushi event, so.
इतना इन्होंने sushi event रखा है वहाँ पर. She works very hard, chemical engineering कर रही. मगर ये शिया सुन्नी दुआ को मैंने start कर दिया उसमें वहाँ पर आते हैं सुन्नी भी आ जाते हैं. क्योंकि उसका translation सुनो तो it's all about God.
Yeah.
तो वो सुनने आ जाते हैं मगर दुआएं दुआ वगैरह के लिए भी तैयार हैं.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's highly been emphasized during the time of one of the things that's been highly emphasized in the time of the Ghaibat in that situation, right, is taqiyya, right? Is taqiyya.
नहीं मगर बाद में करते हैं कि हम लोगों को knowledge नहीं है बोलते हैं. they openly say that we don't have knowledge. तुम लोग का ये जो मजलिसों का सिलसिला है, so it gives you knowledge.
इसमें सबसे पहले अगर आप बात करते हैं अहले सुन्नत वल जमात की, तो उसमें सबसे पहले उनको आपको बताना चाहिए इमामत के बारे में, क्योंकि वो बिलीव नहीं करते।
तो उनके 4 इमाम हैं,
वो बिलीव नहीं करते, बेसिकली उनको इमामत का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं पता। तो कुछ भी बताने से पहले, मौला आखिर ज़मान के बारे में बताने से पहले, सबसे उन्हें पहले बताना पड़ेगा इमामत के बारे में।
उनको बताने को उनके मौलाना साहब को मुल्ला उनका कुछ छोड़ते हैं, अब हम का कुछ नहीं है।
पता है बात क्या, हमारी मैं आपके साथ मेरी इंटरेक्शन है, मेरी मौलाना के साथ नहीं है, मैं नहीं मिलूंगा उससे मौलाना से, इनके साथ आप
बहुत टाइम लगेगा।
जिसका आपके साथ मिलना है आप उनको बता सकते हैं इमामत के बारे में।
अब देखिए हमदर्द साहब है, उनको पिटाई उनकी उन्होंने की, मगर वो डटे हुए हैं, कहते हैं कि नहीं ये अहले बैत से
क्यों? इसलिए क्योंकि वो इमामत को जानते हैं।
उनकी वजह से एक बंदे को, मेरा जो आपसे क्वेश्चन है और आपको भी मैं ये बता, मेरा जो है थिंक कि एक मुल्ला को पकड़ेंगे ना तो आपको हजारों जो है ना उसके पीछे वो आ जाएंगे शिया हो जाएंगे, मगर एक एक बंदे को करके आपको बहुत टाइम लगेगा, आपके पोते भी लगेगा। नहीं वो अभी वो दौर नहीं है, अब 2020 जो है ना सीख जा रहा है,
सोशल मीडिया है आपके पास कम्युनिकेट करने के लिए। लेकिन सबसे पहले आपको अहले सुन्नत वल जमात को इमामत बताना पड़ेगा। बेशक इमामत से शुरू करेंगे, अगर इमामत पे वो कायल होते हैं तो फिर मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि वो किसी भी कोर्ट को, किसी भी इमाम के नरेशन को झुठला सकते हैं, क्योंकि उनका ईमान होगा कि इमाम और जो इमाम कह रहे हैं वो हदीस का हिस्सा है।
ये तो उनके तो हैं 4 इमाम,
नहीं वो उनके हैं ना,
वो इमाम जाफर सादिक के स्टूडेंट है,
वो उनके है ना कॉन्सेप्ट, उनको बताना पड़ेगा। हमारे जो रसूल खुदा के बाद इमामत का कॉन्सेप्ट शुरू हुआ उनको वहां से बताना पड़ेगा, वो जब तक उस चीज को नहीं मानेंगे।
And this is important because how many of Shias can you say understand, you know, the proofs of Imamat, right? We're at a blank. Us Shias, even when we talk so much about unity, right? Us Shias haven't equipped ourselves to understand, like, find the proofs of Imamat from Rasulullah.
नहीं ऐसे तो नहीं है, शिया लोग तो कर लेते हैं, सबको पता है, बच्चों को सबको पढ़ाते हैं हम लोग, तो दे दो, हमारे पास तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं।
He's talking about on a very deep level. Like
Yeah.
a much deeper level.
Explain Imamat from just an akhli perspective, right? How can we prove Imamat from just an intellectual perspective? Because a lot of these kids are in college, right? They're attached to these intellectual proofs.
There's also a lot of different information on social media nowadays, where it can also lead a lot of people to confusion as well.
Yeah, very dangerous on social media.
आप लोग का इमाम बारह है?
जी।
आपने खोला है इमाम बारह?
नहीं हमारे कने local मौलाना है, उनको follow, like he guides us to the Quran and Hadith. We do have a physical building, right? But we didn't establish it or anything.
Where in Houston?
In like the middle of like where in Houston?
South Houston, Sugarland, Richmond area.
Yeah, yeah. So
because we go Ghadir hai वहाँ पर.
Ghadir, we're always at Ghadir.
Baitul Abbas है.
Baitul Abbas.
Yeah.
आप लोगों ने खोला हुआ है?
We have not opened it ourselves, but we do attend
they're a
all the
different
programs.
organization which they do workshops and stuff like that. So they attend, they have their own home center like Fatima or whatnot, but this is a different thing. This is just a workshop outside organization.
Yeah, I mean, if you like me and him, we're just normal individuals, right? We go to the masjid just like you guys, and we listen to the Maulana. We take lots of notes. We have comments and questions. We sit down with Maulana. We go back and forth.
You don't have any,
right? But just anyone who's any scholar that you guys are blessed with, you know, that comes here and go back and forth. Yeah. But the key is that, you know, when we meet on Wednesdays, when we meet throughout the week, we're pressing to go through these books, right? We also have responsibilities. We're pressing to go through these books in order to, you know, see how we can be creative in order to spread the words of Ahlul Bayt, right? This is the biggest, you know, sadaqah, this is the biggest zakat that we can do. Yeah. And this is the best way to support Imam Zaman, right? To learn his teachings and to spread it amongst the Shias.
I have a question. You know, when I see what has happened recently in the world, and you know, when Gaza was, I mean, I know it's still happening, but when it was at its peak, some people, non-Muslims, really shined in terms of their outspokenness and how they stood against this oppression, which is a huge part of, obviously, the 12th Imam's coming, right? Is standing up against oppression. How do we reconcile these? These people are free souls. Like, you can see the purity in their soul. They have nothing to gain from this. It has nothing to do with them. But they're fighting for it with such passion. How do we reconcile that with like followers of the 12th Imam? Is there space for them to join his mission and his movement?
That's a very good question. And I think it's kind of hard on the level that it's not something that we even put focus on, right? Not even a thought. But I think to one of the things that Ali was saying about being a zenith for the Imam, right? For example, we go to work, and I'm just gonna speak from a personal example. I'm at work, and a coworker says, "Oh, you go to this." I told my company, "Yeah, these 2 weeks I'm gonna be in Iraq every year, right? No matter what's happening, I'm gonna be there. Right? No matter what's happening in my work, I'm gonna be there, and I've let them know this." And I come back from ziyarat every year, whether it's Arba'in or Ashur, and they ask me, "What is this that you go to?" Right? And I remember I was on a Teams meeting, and one of my coworkers asked me, like, "Can you send me some information about this? And you go to it, like, what's drawing you guys to it, and why do you go every single year, right? Is this not Hajj, right?" I'm like, "No, this is different than Hajj." And so I sent him some information on Imam Hussain, sent him some information on Arba'in, sent him some information on the whole purpose of Imam Hussein's revival of Vilayat and what his purpose was to stand against Yazid, right? And I think it first starts with us showing ourselves as followers of Ahlul Bayt, and they come and ask you those questions, and then you're presented with that opportunity to give them and impart some knowledge, right? And I think that's kind of where maybe it starts from. This is my personal answer, but I mean, and I don't have a full solution, but from my experience, yeah.
This is also like like anyone with an intellect will tell you this is haqq, this is batil, right? It's clear for anyone, regardless of what faith they are, right? And obviously, when the time Imam Zaman comes, he'll make it very clear, right? He'll make it very clear. So these individuals who are actually sincere to these things and sincere to removing injustice from the world, right? They will fall in line when they see Isa alayhi salam praying behind Imam al-Mahdi, right? These individuals who are sincere to their cause, to their religion, right? They will understand Imam Zaman is the Hujjah, right? And they will come to this side. But Mahdi was right, like you see it, like anytime they see like any good from you, right? And they ask you why you're doing this, refer to this is what my Mawla taught me, right? These are the traits and things that I learned from Imam Mahdi alayhi salam's life, right? So this all goes back to that. But yeah, it is very tough. Very tough.
Okay, so we do still have a Kahoot. It's a quick game because we have some prizes to give out. So let's get to it and we can wrap it up. Everyone is familiar with Kahoot, right? You can log onto your phone and it will be a quiz timed. Let's do it. So if you can go to the website, which is kahoot.it, you can type in this game pin, and then we'll see you come up as a participant. When we have everyone, we can start. There we go. Thank you.
Last point, like this was a workshop, came once, first time here. It's a blessing to be here amongst the Shias brothers and sisters. But you guys should try to implement things like these within your own community. Like you have Mikyal, right? You guys have a bunch of sisters, a bunch of brothers, right? You can sit down and have like a discussion on one chapter of Mikyal Makara, right? One responsibility and how we can uphold that responsibility in our day-to-day lives, right? Could be like a Wednesday or like a weekend meeting type thing. So with these initiatives is how we essentially and live in the presence of the Ahlul Bayt within our lives. So inshallah.
And the other point that I think we kind of forgot to mention at the end was that obviously these things are something that you want to make routine. Learning about the Ahlul Bayt is not just on the weekend, or it's not just in Ramzan or Muharram, right? And one of the things that we have done is to started classes where we discuss these topics, discuss aqaid, the roots of our beliefs, and look at it from the lens of Quran and Ahlul Bayt. So alhamdulillah, I mean, we have some of the brothers here that have joined us in class. We have recently started a sisters class. There's 2 sisters classes. They're happening online. And if you guys are interested, inshallah, we can send you information on that as well. Okay, I think we have mostly everyone, so we can get started. Okay, so first question, and these are mostly based off the discussion. Truth has come and falsehood has vanished. Indeed, falsehood is bound to vanish. Is from which surah? This is going to be the announcement made and revealed when Imam Zaman is coming. Do you guys think it's Surah Yasin, Surah Isra, Surah Maryam, or Surah Kahf? Okay. Yeah, so the answer is actually Surah Isra, right? Yeah, it's straightforward. I don't know if there's. Okay, they're the only one that got it right. Good. Still opportunity. There's more questions. There's 14 questions, so still opportunity for everyone to get up the leaderboard. How many women will be among the 313 of Imam Zaman? Oh. So there is a number that they've said in the book that potentially is the number of what they say will be the amount of women. These are a little bit harder questions. I didn't think that there's going to be like a hard one quiz.
We thought you were going to cover the questions.
Yeah, I think some of these we actually don't make the quiz portion. We have another team that does the quizzes. 50, yeah. The hadith says that there will be 50 among the 313 at least. All right, another still out big. From the maternal side of his family, Imam Zaman is a descendant of which individual? Imam Hussain, Imam Hassan, Janab Shamun, or Janab Asif ibn Baqiya? So maternal side, Imam Zaman's mother was actually a Roman princess, to put that into perspective. Right, it is Janab Shamun. Okay. Which representative of Imam Zaman was an oil merchant? So there were 4 representatives of Imam Zaman. All of them had their day jobs per se, and one of them was an oil merchant. Right? He would actually deliver oil to people, and as he would deliver the oil, he would collect the letters from the people and then deliver that to Imam Zaman. Yes, Janab Usman bin Sayyid al-Amri. Right, and some of the other ones also had other jobs. Some of them were male deliverers. Some of them would also just be regular mail deliverers. So that's where the concept of an ariza came, where we have letters, and those letters were collected and given to the Imam.
Yeah, the aspect to highlight in their lives, they were also individuals who worked. Right? They had families, they took care of families, they worked. At the same time, they were naibs of Imam Zaman, or helping Imam Zaman by upholding their responsibility to him.
This one's a multi-select. What are the 3 pre-actionable steps we discussed during this event? So this was at the end of the presentation. We discussed 3 specific things that we can do. Nice, right? We talked about this. One was to realize your connection with the Imam, to know your responsibilities, and at the end of that, to make the pledge to the Imam. Oh yeah, the Ali came up big. So which prophets are also proofs to the ghaibat of Imam Zaman? Right? A lot of times we'll see that they say, how can Imam Zaman live so long? But there are prophets themselves that are also living in the same ghaibat. Okay, right. Prophet Ilyas and Intezaar. Prophet Isa and Musa was the most chosen answer. So Prophet Isa and Musa are not currently living in this ghaibat where they're still fully alive and working for the Imam still, right? If the Imam was to come to this gathering now, how would we recognize him? Right? Would it be from his physical appearance, by the signs of the reappearance, by his clothing, or by his character? That's not right. Very nice. By his character. And this was the main purpose of why we discussed and ourselves went through the different traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, where from that you learn about their character and the words that they spoke. Okay. When did Ghaibat al-Sughra and Kubra begin? Right. Ghaibat al-Sughra was the first occultation and Kubra the second. We didn't cover this, but for reference, I can say that in 250 AH, Imam Zaman was born. $255 AH. Okay, that's my bad. 260, so that's the right answer. Whose advent is a part of the major signs? One of the Hatmi that we discovered of the five.
Omani.
Yamani, right? The Yamani and the Sufyani are the ones that will come. What was the title of the book that we discussed today? We had a picture of it up at the end as well. Was it Madinatul Ma'ajiz, Mikyal al-Makaram, Kitab al-Ghaiba, or Kamal al-Din, Tamam Nidma? Mikyal al-Makaram, right? This was the book that we have up here. If you guys would like to also look at it, you're more than welcome to come take a look at the end. Complete the hadith. Whoever dies while blank his Imam, it is as if he were with the Mahdi in his tent. Right, this is the hadith that we had gone over. Right, the options are fighting for, awaiting, recognizing, or crying for. Oh, missed it. The answer is recognizing, which is what the emphasis of the hadith was about, recognizing the Imam. How many days did the Imam tell the fourth Naib that he would die within? This was in the letter that he wrote to the last Naib, that telling him of his coming death in the start of Ghaibat al-Kubra. These are hard questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a single digit number. But
6. The Imam tells him that he will die in 6 days, and for him to get his affairs in orders, and telling him that this will be after him there will be no more representatives of the Imam.
Be no more naibs after the passing of the fourth naib. So it would be cut off after them. And at this point is also when you see the book of Kitab al-Kafi being formulated and given to the masses. Right? So look at this gift, the matching of the hadith corpus of how it's being built, and then in the minor occultation, and then it's going out to the major occultation.
And pray more for the reappearance than it is in your salvation. Who has narrated this hadith? Who has told us about this?
Wait, whose words are they, or who narrated it?
Yeah, actually, it should be whose words are they? That is the better. Yeah, this is actually words of Imam Zaman, where he has told in that same letter to the Naib of what is one of the actions that the people should do, which is to pray for his reappearance. That is, we will get with the quiz team and tell them to fix this wording. That's a good point. I never caught that. Hadith says, be patient over calamities and preserve with them in practicing blank, and remain steadfast with the one you follow. What is the blank after practicing? What should we be practicing?
Mention this point in one of the questions that came up.
Taqiyya, right? So part of being a Shia, one of the core concepts is also to have taqiyya, right? To understand when. Yes.
तकिया कब करना चाहिए और कब नहीं करना चाहिए? In which situation तकिया करना चाहिए इस situation में?
Murtada Ansari, Fatima al-Fuqaha, right? He has a whole treaty that he's written on when to do taqiyya and when not to do taqiyya. He's labeled out when taqiyya is haram, when taqiyya is mustahab, when taqiyya is wajib, right? It's in English, I'll send it to you, inshallah. It's a short thing, right? But basically the Imam says, Laysa minna, the one is not from us who abandons taqiyya before the coming of the ghaiba. Yeah, so.
इसमें ये है कि दीन पर चलते हुए अगर आपकी जात के ऊपर और आपके जान के ऊपर बात आती है तो कहिया जाएगी। अगर दीन पर चलते हुए दीन पे बात आती है तो कहिया जाएगी। बाकी आप भेजेंगे तो मैं
Can you send this to us so we can get it?
Sure. Inshallah.
Let's see who the winners are. Okay, number 3 we have Asad. 2, second place we have Nida, and first place we have Batul. Very nice. Give a loud salawat for quiz winners.
That was known. That was known.
So for first place, Batul, we have a gift for you. It is a plaque that has Nada Ali written on it. And for the first, second, and third place, we have a book by Ayatollah Safi Qutb on the occultation of Imam Zaman.
So it's a bunch of questions that Ayatollah Safi Qutb who passed in the recent era. He has a lot of works on Imam Zaman. But these are some questions that were asked him, and he responds in a very simple manner, and very nice book to read.
I'm old, it's not even fair.
This is my daughter.
Yeah. And with that, that's the conclusion of the event.
Yeah, my student is my